At the age of 10, you first pick up a spray can down the street from your home in Echo Park. Can you tell us about that first encounter?
Wow, you really did homework. First time I ever touched a can of spray paint was accidentally on the end of my block in Echo Park, throwing rocks or marbles or something, or I can't remember what we were doing. Somehow we ended up throwing something against a wall in this house, and the board was either broken on the wall or the garage or something, and went to the garage, like put my hand there to grab whatever you had thrown into the other rock, or I can't remember what it was, so young, and put my hand down there for some reason, like finding a can of paint, like an old ultra flat or semi-flat black Fireball, rusted Krylon with like a black stock tip, original tip. This is probably like 1980, 7, 8, something like that, 78, 88 or something like that. And so like, I'm in this empty lot, and there's a trailer parked in the lot there, and the trailer happened to belong to one of my neighbor's grandfathers. And so I caught a tag on the trailer with my real name and ran off. I just lived my life and didn't think anything about it. It was just like, it wasn't tagging me, it was just spraying this can, just learning like just to spray a can. It wasn't like I was going it for fame, I was just doing it for fun, I guess. And then later, one of the kids saw it and then ran to the other kids, and it got to the girls, and they were like, oh, they tagged on my grandpa's trailer, and they tried to like figure out who had done it, but it wasn't hard to figure out who had done it because it was my name, and I was the only kid in the block with that name. So came to my house and hit up my parents, and were like, hey, your kid wrote on this trailer thing. And I was like, oh, well, you know, it was just like, hey, you shouldn't do it. I was so young, it wasn't like, you're a tagger, stop that. It wasn't even that notion. It was more like, that's not your property, you shouldn't be doing that, you know, like you tell a kid, like, leave people's stuff alone. It wasn't like I was in trouble. I probably did get in trouble. My dad probably whipped my ass, but I can't even remember at this point. But yeah, that was my first experience with like a spray can.
When you write your name on that wall, are you conscious of graffiti at that time?
At that, I'm like, do I understand what graffiti is and I see it exist? Yeah, but like I'm in elementary at this time. I'm like, I've never really thought about like that, the concept of graffiti. Like, I'm gonna go out here and get up and become somebody. Like, no, it was basically the equivalent of a child. Anyone of us children knows at a certain point a child will get a hold of a marker or a pen or a crayon and just write on walls. It's a natural instinct. I don't think it has anything to do with that kid wants to be a tagger. I think it's just something that happens. And all kids do it. I don't think it has anything to do with graffiti, you know? I just think I think at that point, it was just trying to, it was something I'd never seen. I didn't have a spray can in my house. I'd never used one. I wasn't even sure how they worked. It was just kind of tripping out how the thing worked, I guess, at that point. And just I didn't know what else to write. So I just wrote my name because it was the first thing that popped in my head.
Who first introduces you to graffiti? Or when does it first enter your consciousness?
I want to say not long after that, maybe because when you're a child, it seems like a million years later, but it was probably like, in fact, like a year or so later, probably like 10 or 11 years old. One of the neighborhood kids, he's actually a SHEIK from LOD, OTR right now, and Baser from LOD and OTR and whatever, that thing, that connection. They were across the street from me. I used to go to his house and like play video games with him. He was like the older kid in the block. He's a year or so older than me. And I would just hang out there, you know, we would just do things. And one day, I guess at his school, he was at that age and he was in junior high already. I think I was in the 5th or 6th grade. And he came home with like subway art. And then they were all looking at it. And of course, I'm this little kid like looking over their shoulders like, hey guys, what are you looking at? And they're like, oh, this is like graffiti art, subway art. Mind you, at this point, I still really haven't taken in graffiti in the streets. I've seen it, but I really don't understand it. I have no concept of what it really is. It's just there, you know what I'm saying? As much as trees growing, they're just trees. You never really start to think about it. And I started flipping through the subway art, I guess, at his house one day. I don't know, man. That was like something fucking snapped. Like, this is it. This is, I don't even know what this is or who these people are. Maybe it was the colors. Maybe, I don't know what it was that in my mind just got me like, whoa, like, I want to do this. This is like, I didn't know if I want to do this, but like, this is just interesting to me. Like, this is, wow, I've never seen anything like this. Like, I see magazines, I see catalogs, I see documentation and books at school, and none of them have this, let alone, you know, like this extent of color and madness. And I guess around that same time too, like they started tagging based on kids in the junior high, and I saw my first marker ever, I think it was like a 2-tone mean streak. It was like turquoise and yellow. And he wrote another name back then. I remember like walking down the street with him just to watch him catch tags. Like, oh, they're catching tags. It just seemed like so much fun to me. Like, you know, we'd walk down the street the next day and he'd have his name there. Like, whoa, that's my friend. Like, that's cool. And mind you, at this point, I'm like 9, 10 years old. I'm a little kid. Like, I'm a little shit, you know? And yeah, those are the guys that got me started. Baser and SHEIK, LOD. Those are the people who were like, if they had been like into surfing and shit, I probably would have been like surfing. Who knows, you know? But that's what sparked the interest in me.